So my biggest monetary wins as a client that I signed on was a $200,000 contract.
Hey guys, it's Ashley Kirkwood with the Speak Your Way to Cash podcast. Super excited because we have Miss Shayla Atkins in the building, one of our amazing mastermind clients and just a powerhouse in her own right. Shayla, welcome to Speak Your Way to Cash.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Of course, thank you for being here. So introduce yourself to the audience. Let them know what you do and the types of clients you serve.
Absolutely. So as Ashley mentioned, my name is Shayla Atkins. I am the CEO of the Atkins Impact Consulting firm, where we do two things. We build authentic leaders and we cultivate inclusive cultures. And so within that, we build authentic executives, specifically women of color. We are changing the landscape of senior leadership in the C-suite. And as a consultant specializing in global diversity, equity, and inclusion, we are cultivating those inclusive cultures that celebrate authentic women and accelerate them into the C-suite.
Love
it. We do.
Love it. Love it. Love it. That's incredible. So you have two sides to your business then. So if there's a woman leader listening who's in corporate who wants to accelerate her career, she can reach out to you as well.
Absolutely. So that woman leader who desires to be authentic and not sacrifice her identity to be successful. And then those organizations, those corporations who want a more inclusive environment that celebrates authenticity.
Amazing. Amazing. So really excited to get into this today, talking about specifically retainer clients. I've told the Speak Your Way to Cash fam this before, but our law firm was able to go really quickly because we landed clients 5 to 20K per month, every month on 6 to 12 month contracts or 3 6 to 12 month contracts. And that helped us to grow. And there's many people listening who are only selling one-off services, one-off speech, one-off keynote, one-off 1 hour coaching session. And I believe the best business model is to switch to a recurring revenue model. It makes you look way healthier with the bank. And so we're going to get into that and like how you've been able to do that, how you've been able to transition into that. So let us know where you started. When you first started your company, what were you charging corporations? What were you doing? And then so we'll start there and then we'll go from there.
This is actually a funny story. So this company, I would just say for anyone listening, has seen many evolutions. So it has went from career coaching, leadership coaching, business development strategy, and all the things, just to be completely transparent. And one of the things before I was able to move into retainer clients, I had to be clear and aligned on what my expertise was.
Yes.
What was I confident as an expert that I know I can deliver? So hence I've come back to my full circle moment of DEI and leadership. And so when I started this, I was charging, it's a little embarrassing to say, right? So I was charging trainings for like $300 and $400 for a training. So I'm talking about building the content, and we know how long that takes, delivering in-person training for like $400 is what I was charging, just to say I got the client, just to check the box, right, and build the confidence. So it was not always as great as it is now.
No, I love that. And so where were you at in your business before you joined the mastermind? What services were you selling?
So before then, I was doing deliverable flat fee based types of services.
Okay.
So they had to have some type of deliverable, tangible product offering, right? I need, a training, or I need a strategy, right? So then it was just a flat fee for that particular deliverable is where I was before.
So no pure consulting work.
No, and if so, it was integrated into the deliverable fee.
Yeah.
So it was, I'm going to deliver this strategy, and then I'm going to do some consulting on how to implement the strategy, kind of guide you through it, but not pure consulting.
That makes sense. And how did the mastermind shift your mindset on that? And then were you apprehensive at first to hearing some of the rates that you could charge? Tell us how that worked out for you? Because I know there's people who are like, she's lying to us. We can't charge that to just give advice. We can't charge that to just do a one-off speech.
Absolutely. This was one, it was truly a mindset shift. And Ashley, I know you and I had a number of conversations. We had calls. I had my entire list. I'm a data geek. So I had this whole spreadsheet lined out with all these things. And then Ashley's like doubling. I'm like, well, wait, it's just advice. So it was a complete mindset shift. And what I had to realize is I brought an expertise. I was a subject matter expert. And currently, in this current landscape with diversity and inclusion, people are craving expertise. And we have seen, the industry flooded with consultants, right, in this space. But for me, it's not just the hard work, it's also the mind work, right? So what is the strategy? How do you tie this to the business? And I know that's where I thrive. So being able to create packages to where you're getting my expertise. And I will tell you, my first client, Ashley, that I signed on retainer was at those current rates because I was apprehensive. And once I got that first client to say yes, I was like, wait a minute. That was too easy. Hold on a second.
Yes. And the one question I asked Shayla was there any pushback? And she was like, no. I'm like, that's how you know. Because honestly, let me tell y'all a secret about corporations. They will always push back if it's out of budget. They aren't like us, or it's like, oh, no, this is the rate. No, like they are like, absolutely not. And it's where I learned to ask 3 times. If you can get a different rate. And with every vendor, we train our team, we're like, ask 3 times. Like, see if they'll go down 3 times, because honestly, that's just how it works. Like in corporate, you negotiate. And that's also why when you set your rate, that's your rate. But that rate could come down, it could come up. But when it goes down and when it goes up, you have to either decrease or increase services that is
absolutely
aligned with that rate. But you said something else that we got to point out. In a world where everyone is raise your rate, raise your rate, raise your rate, I do not want you all to get me confused with coaches that read a book and that told everyone to raise their rate because the book said raise your rate. Shayla is an expert. Okay. And so this conversation is relevant to experts. If you are just starting out in DEI, that's great. But you do need to have genuine expertise to sell to sophisticated buyers. They will know if you are faking it. This is not Capville, USA in corporate, right? Like they will know if you are faking it. And so you do want to make sure you have an expertise. So talk a little bit about how did you get confident in your expertise and what was the realization? Was it a certificate? Was it a client result? What was it that made you finally say, okay, I got to stop playing with myself. I am an expert.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I've been doing this work for almost 2 decades before it was called DEI, before it had a label, right? And so others who are in this space may recognize it as organizational effectiveness, culture work, things of that sort, right? And so for me, I do have certifications in diversity and inclusion, certified leader, executive in this space, and client results. And what I had to do was to go back to my days in corporate America and write down the results. Sometimes we tend to forget the results that we deliver. And this was my evidence list. This was my evidence list that you can do this. You have done it. You've done it for others. Why can't you do it for yourself? So once I made my evidence list, and then also my evidence list as an entrepreneur, I was very clear. And I'll be honest, I went back to some prior clients and say, how has what I've done and delivered changed your organization? What are you able to do now? What were your business results? And once I heard that, I was like, it was the unlock, like, okay, I got it. Like, this is a big deal. And I realized I was playing small. I was playing super small. And so, yes, as an expert, and I did, after that first client, I doubled my rates. And even then, my next client was like, yes. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So it was a journey, right? And this is, I would say, as Ashley mentioned, as being an expert, I would not recommend this path for someone just starting out, right? I would definitely recommend what are the things specifically, be more specific, be more tangible in your offerings, and build up expertise before going into retainer type, because it can span retainer. It spans the entire landscape, right? It's not just I'm going to deliver in this one thing. You have to be knowledgeable in multiple areas.
That's a really good point, because there are so many different ways to set up a retainer. And so I'd love to hear more about your two types of retainer services and what you provide. And then I'll tell you guys about some different types of retainers that you can provide for those of you who are like, well, I don't have the depth of knowledge yet to provide general retainer services. So what are the retainer services that you currently provide?
Yeah, so I have, as Ashley mentioned, so I have two types. So the one that is purely consulting and advisory, okay? And there's three packages within that. And this is like essentially, think of this as purchasing hours per month, right? And so this is purely consulting, purely advising, where I work with the board of directors, your CEO, your C-suite, your senior leaders to truly move your strategy forward, right? Then the second type is consulting plus implementation, right? So this is, yes, I've advised you on your strategy. Now I'm going to build your strategy and support you through implementation of your strategy, for an arbitrary example. So those are the two types. Of course, that second type has a more expensive price tag, right? Because it is now the execution of the deliverables. And I find that clients, it just really depends on where they are in their journey or where their business are. So whether it's DEI or some other field, on what type of support that they need, depending on where they are.
That's really good. And then I know like rates change. So this video is dated, but
Yeah.
what would be the lowest amount per month that someone could pay you for the consulting, and the lower end of the consulting plus implementation?
Absolutely. So for consulting only, the lowest is 10K a month. I do not go below 10K a month. And then the lowest in on the consulting plus implementation is 35K a month. That is the lowest that we go. And then it goes up from there.
Yeah, and heavy on the up, because this isn't 10K a month. You get 100 hours, you get all that other stuff. Like, it's very streamlined.
It is.
That's really good. That's really good to know. And I think for a lot of people listening, they're probably wondering like, oh my gosh, like how could this work for me? And I will tell you, so Shayla's services, her depth of knowledge, it goes wide. When we offered these types of services, I'll say for like the law firm, we focused on contracts, trademarks, and copyrights. And so you either got one legal deliverable, it was all implementation, so it was done for you, one deliverable per month, two deliverables per month, or three deliverables per month, and then it could go up from there. And those would range from 6 to 20K per month, just for like individual done for you deliverables, okay? And then a quarterly call. So that was it. And those were our rates. So if you are narrow, then deliverables are great. So if you're like, I only know about this one element, I only know about executive leadership, then each of the executives gets X amount of hours with you per month, or the company gets X amount of hours per month, and those executives each get a link to book a call that month. That's fine. And then a quarterly training, you attend one board meeting and advise. You do, like, there's all types of ways that you can structure your particular retainer services. It's one of the reasons why at Speaker Ready Cash Live, we're going to do a retainer rich session, all about how to structure retainer services, what it looks like, how to pitch them. And that leads me to my next question, pitching these things. So the first time you pitched a retainer client, how was that experience for you? Were you nervous? Did you show them slides? What did that process look like?
You know what? One, I want to say, I love how you just mentioned around the narrow in your expertise versus wide, right? So, and I love that. And you can have both, right? Depending on your areas of expertise. Now, when it comes to pitching, yes, I was nervous, but in this mastermind and under, Ashley's tutelage, one of the things I've learned is to truly listen. Not just sit in a call and we have our scripts and we have these tools and resources, and it's not about making sure you get through the script and get through all the questions, was to truly listen to what they're saying and what they're not saying. Mm-hmm. And so in my very first client that I pitched, what I heard was, I need support, I need expertise. And she was saying, but I don't have these deliverables. And she was almost talking herself into, well, maybe I don't need the service. And I said, wait, You're trying to navigate this landscape with these new laws and things that are changing. You need a thought partner and expertise. You need a true, pure consultant. Let's do a retainer of just that. And I pitched her on the spot. I did not wait and get off the phone and then send something later just for the person to think about it and right. And we talk ourselves out of things. It's human nature is what we do. And so it was like, do it right then and there. I did it scared. I was definitely nervous, but do it scared, right? And pitched her right then and there. And that was also with the second client where I doubled the rates. I had an opportunity to do a focus group, did the report of findings, and they were like, yes, but we don't know. We got to build the action plan. That's why we got to build it first when we don't know. Well, you know what? Let's stay on the call. We pass time. Does anybody have a hard stop? No. Let's do a retainer service where I can consult you in building the action plan, and then you can pay me to implement it as well and be that. Yeah. So it is, yes, I was nervous, but it was truly listening to what it is the clients are saying and not saying, and don't lose the momentum. Use the momentum to pitch right then and there.
I love it. I love it. And that prompted two questions for me is, were both of these clients already clients of yours that you upsold essentially, or were these brand new clients that you were doing on a sales call for the first time?
So the first client was an existing client that I upsold. So they were already on like the deliverable flat fee. So this is where it was that transition was like, I need the expertise, but I don't have any more deliverables. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. We can do something, right?
Yeah.
And then the second client, I did a focus group. So they were already a client. I would take this one as more of like an audition, right? So I did this focus group, but they were technically a brand new client. And then, like I said, not losing momentum. And it was like, let's do this. And I pitched it, and then I followed up with the documented information versus sending that over first. So I pitched it and then did the follow up within 24 hours, if like less than that, to keep the momentum going. That is one thing I truly learned, is to not lose that momentum.
I love it. And then the focus group, was that like, was that almost like your opt-in with this client? So did you pitch them on doing a focus group, or how did that come about?
They actually found me. So they found me. Companies who find me go to three places. They found me on Google. And then once they find me on Google, I'm very big on SEO and showing up on Google. Like, I'm serious about having my Google feeds, you know. Mm-hmm. And so they found me on Google, and then they stalked my website, and then stalked me on LinkedIn. So having content, published articles, thought leadership, and that's how typically corporations would find me. And so I did the focus group, and here was the thing. Knowing that the focus group could lead into the long-term contract, I did not charge them my typical rate for the focus group because I wanted the long-term contract. So I wasn't trying to price myself out by charging them a crazy, ridiculous rate for the focus group, because I'm like, no, I want the long-term contract. And so it's very much a chess move, very strategic of like, okay, let me come right in the middle.
This is the opt-in.
It was exactly. It was the opt-in.
And you still got paid for it. So it's a paid opt-in.
It was a paid opt-in. It was at a lower rate, but now that has turned into a 6-month contract at $10K a month on top, and it will be in addition to having the implementation costs on top of that as well.
So this will easily be a 6-figure contract.
Easily.
Now, for the focus group opt-in, was it under 5K or over 5K?
Right at it. It was $49.95.
Okay.
$49.95.
And what did that entail? Were you coming in and just kind of seeing what the company needed? What were you doing in the focus group?
Yeah, so I did focus group for like their women, and this is essentially what it was, how their culture, was it inclusive, and giving them a report to say, this is what you're doing well, this is where you have opportunities. Essentially, I built my action plan.
Market research,
right?
Yeah.
Market research, this is what I recommend, here are some best practices. And then I met with their senior leaders to go over, here's what I recommend you do going forward, which gave me the opportunity to showcase my expertise. As you mentioned earlier, they will know if you're faking it. Mm-hmm. And that is because corporate, the sales cycle is a lot longer. There's more conversations. So they will know if you're faking it, right? So that was the lower price opt-in, had that meeting, and I pitched them during the meeting where I was just supposed to be presenting the results from the focus group. That was what that meeting was for.
Did they agree on that first call?
Yeah, they were like, yes. And that was at the double price.
Yeah. And what I like about it is because I see that sometimes people do stuff in corporations as like an opt-in or a lunch and learn or something, but they're not strategic about who's in the room. So doing a lunch and learn for the general populace of a company is not as beneficial as you doing a focus group for all of the directors and C-level executives at a company. One will be infinitely more valuable to my company than the other because the decision makers, the people who can write the checks, are all in one space.
They're already there.
Yeah, so make sure if you all are doing anything like an opt-in or a focus group or a survey or anything, even if you do something complimentary, it matters more who's in the room. Exactly. So do whatever you can do to get the right people in the room.
Absolutely. And even if you do your lunch and learn, I will highly recommend always put into your contract some type of debrief with senior leadership, because that's what this was. This was the debrief with the senior leaders. I want the decision makers. Like, I put that in there as a requirement.
Yes, in the contract terms.
In the contract terms, absolutely.
So good. Ooh, y'all, I hope y'all are taking notes. And then she also gave you some more homework. Get your evidence list. Okay, so write out all of your accomplishments, all the things you did in corporate. And I don't know if y'all picked up on these nuggets, but she also said that she went back to clients, who maybe she didn't get this information from. How has it impacted you? What's been the long-term result? So there's nothing wrong with going back to clients and asking, okay? Ooh, this is so good. So what are the job titles of the people who are able to say yes to this offer? So if someone's listening and they're in the DEI or the leadership space, what are some typical job titles that you are reaching out to or that you see come through as an interest form on your website forms?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the pricing that I charge, this is VP and above, right? So when you think about who can sign off on a six-figure contract without having to seek, so many different layers of approval. So the VP and above, the chief HR officer, your chief people officers is who I meet with. Depending on the structure of the company, it's the head of HR, business development. And what's been a commonality is the CFO is in the room. The CFO has been in the room in the conversations. And so, they're like, yeah, let's do it, right? Because you have all the key stakeholders and decision makers that are already there. But those are typically what comes across my desk. And even when I pitch to VP and above. The director can probably do that $5,000 focus group, right? But they can't sign off. When you think about approvals, they can't sign off on that six-figure contract without going above. So I cut out the middleman.
Love it. Love it. And you guys, that's something we always say is just go to the top. Go to the top. And the top may look different. It may not always be the CEO. It may be VP. It may be director level to get in the door. Look at the leadership team versus management. One thing that I found interesting, I'll tell you guys, we took our Lux clients to the Four Seasons, and the person who had authority to pay I think she gave us $40,000 for a day-long training was a manager. So not even a director for those individual trainings. And you'll find this interesting. The two trainings she buys the most every year, diversity and sales.
Wow.
And she said that was her budget for the individual Four Seasons location, but there are a variety of Four Seasons locations, all of which have their own learning departments, and there's a corporate Four Seasons that you can pitch and get contracts throughout the company as well.
Wow.
So
that's good to know.
Yeah, so I'll give you that little nugget,
Write down Four Seasons.
Yes, for sure. So it's really interesting, and I'll tell you guys something else, because now that we're on this. She told us she'd only been pitched one time in her whole career with an individualized pitch. Everyone else sent these automated whack AI pitches. And the one person who pitched her, she's been working with. So I will say a lot of you are like, I'm not pitching because I feel like, everyone's pitching and everyone's burnt out and everyone's drained. Even if people are doing something at a high amount of people are doing it, if they're doing it bad, then great. You still have plenty of room to stand out. You still have plenty of room to make an impact. And I highly recommend that you all get out there and pitch, especially right now with the economy and with all of the things. And one thing that I wanted you to speak to, Shayla, there is an attack on diversity right now. There is an attack on, there's been layoffs, there's an attack on diversity, there's been Supreme Court lawsuits that have terrified certain industries. I was just on we're doing some federal contracting work or research on federal contracting work, and I saw that they have suspended the 8A program. The SBA has been enjoined from allowing new 8A disadvantaged business into their programming. And so with all of this going on, there is a diversity leader listening who I guarantee you is like, I'm going to have to shut down my firm. I'm not going to be able to do this work anymore. They're not going to hire me. What would you say to motivate and encourage that person? What are your thoughts on this as our resident expert?
Yes. So first, I have so many articles on this, right? Just like go to LinkedIn. I have a lot of articles where I share my thoughts specifically on DNI experts, what corporations should do. First and foremost, what you're seeing right now, you're exactly right. It's an attack. And you're seeing two different extremes. You're seeing companies double down on it or back away. And that's where you're seeing these layoffs and everything like that. Now, if you own a DE&I firm, this is your time to double down and to get very clear about the business case of DE&I.
Yes.
Not the heart case alone, meaning the moral case. Mm-hmm. So the moral case is great. I'm not knocking that. But you have to be very clear about the business case and to how pitch the companies that are laying off.
Yep.
Pitch the companies with job postings. That's your target audience, then you know that they're still committed. Do it. So that would be my short advice. My long advice is go to LinkedIn and read all the articles that I have about my thoughts and perspective on this.
Yes, and please follow her on LinkedIn, you guys. Like, this has been so good and so encouraging just to know. One, I always feel that when spending slows, those who are going to go hard show up. She talked about her thought leadership on LinkedIn. She talked about making sure her website is SEO optimized. I don't know if you use Google Ads, but if not, that's a really simple thing to do, just to boost what you're already doing well. So when people search for DEI in your state or your name, it comes up. We keep a really low-cost Google ad going, just evergreen. It may even be like $5 a day, just so that when people search our name, we own that name. Yeah. But there's some creative things you can do with that if people are already searching, and I know they're searching for your keyword, so we could talk about that too. But I highly recommend that you all lean in. I highly recommend, especially if you are in the space of making workplaces better, the morale goes way down when there are massive layoffs. And what does that mean for consultants? That we are needed more than ever to go into these companies and increase morale. How do you keep your top performers performing if they're looking at all their friends being fired? How do you keep your leaders from not being depressed because they have to do massive layoffs? I have family in senior level leadership and above, and it is really hard around this time of year because companies do layoffs Q4 every year.
Every year.
And now it's a little bit worse. You know what I mean? It's a lot worse for some industries. And so that weighs on the leadership to have to lay off that many people. So where can you see opportunities where other people only see lack?
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. I love that. And if you can tie that, like I said, where the layoffs are happening, your services are so needed because what they're called fractional, leadership and executive services. And it's like, I can provide the same service at a fraction of the cost, right, that they're seeing. And like, lean in, don't shy away. Do not feel like you're going to have to close your firm, change your firm, right? You're going to have to be just more intentional about it.
Yes.
And if you're in the D&I space.
Definitely. So what shocked you most about servicing retainer clients?
Yeah, so after like locking in the contract and starting to work with corporations, it was the amount of insurance, business insurance that I had to carry for my firm. This completely shocked me because this was 5 different types of insurance. And I'm like, wait a minute. Now, I definitely understand your personal and professional liability, right? Make sure there's no, mistakes or anything like that. And there's workers' comp insurance. There is personal property, like if you're going to go on site, right, to their sites. And because of the day and age we live in, cybersecurity insurance, right? So in case any of your computers get hacked because you have their information on your personal computer. That shocked me in the amount of coverage. Depending on the company, these are $1 million to $3 million policies that you have to carry. So when you're thinking about your expenses, factor that in to your budget, to your rates, all of the things, because it's a big deal and it's not cheap at all.
How much would all those 5 insurances cost you per month?
Right now, they're costing me $300 to $400 a month.
Okay, that's good to know.
It's $300 to $400, and that is ranging between, some of my policies are $1 million to $3 million, depending on the company.
Really good, really good.
Yeah.
And do you have them all with the same insurance provider, or is it different insurance providers that provide each?
I was able to find one provider to provide it, but I will say this: it was hard because not every provider carries the cyber. Typically, cyber is a standalone. The other ones will get you your workers' comp and professional and things of that sort. But cyber is very, very hard to find because it's so specialized and specific. But I was able to find one provider. Actually, I used a broker who was able to source and find the provider who can do all 5, because I just didn't want to deal with multiple providers.
Are you comfortable sharing the provider?
Yeah, so it's actually, I'm definitely comfortable because people need this. I'm not a gatekeeper at all. So it's a company called 3. It's by Berkshire Hathaway. So Berkshire Hathaway, and it's like one of their subsidiaries called 3. It's who they offer all 5 types of insurance. And so it's about $300 to $400 a month. But that was a big shock for me, especially going into that space as a small business owner.
Yeah, no, that's good. Even with, if you all do any government contracting, please know they have very similar requirements, if not more stringent. So very good. This is awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing.
Same service at a fraction of the cost, right?
I want to talk about 2 types of wins. So what's been your biggest monetary win since joining the mastermind? And then what's been your biggest non-monetary win? Because I think they're equally as important.
So my biggest monetary win since joining was a client that I signed on was a $200,000 contract, which was deliverables. Yeah, so that was like, yes. And that was because of the non-monetary win of the mindset shift. And I went through, and this is when I first came into the mastermind, and this mindset shift was huge around pricing, around the structure of the contract, because I realized I was leaving so much on the table and I was offering too much.
Yes.
And so the monetary was that $200K contract. The non-monetary was the shift around, you can do this, and to stop comparing yourself to others. I had that bad.
Yeah.
And LinkedIn used to intimidate me, and I would be like, oh my God.
And you're crushing it on LinkedIn.
And I'm like, they have 8 PhDs, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this. And I would constantly compare myself, right? And so it was the showing up, right? And changing the mindset. That has been my biggest non-monetary win, is to stop comparing myself, and in a way of making myself feel inferior, because of the thought leadership and degrees and expertise. And I'm like, no, you deliver results. That's what you do.
Yeah.
So I had to find that, right? What was my competitive advantage? And that was huge for me.
I love that. If you have not already, you have to read this book called Relentless by Tim Grover.
Oh.
And he just talks about basically what you said, like the shift between, you don't even have to think about it, that's who I am, and how that really impacts peak performance. And there's some of you that and I have been, oh my gosh, I've been so guilty of this. Like, if negative things are happening, or if I see something negative online, or I watch something negative, I'm just like, this is so bad. And you start thinking everyone is losing and everyone's not winning and all these different things. And it's like, no, I get to be who I am in every environment. And as long as I remember that, I can now serve from a place of abundance and power. But if I forget that, now I have to serve like in a cowardly state. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. Like, you are a winner. You are dominating in your field. And I'm telling you, like, I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing. Like, the companies, I wish one of my companies that I worked at before I became an entrepreneur would have hired someone like you to really help them. Oh, and law firms would be great clients because they are losing at the diversity. Literally, like I left I don't even know how many years ago. I left in 2018. I told you, nope, still no black women. Nope, only one black woman partner. Nope, still making billions of dollars, and they can't figure out how to solve the diversity issue. I'm just like, come on. At some point, companies just have to like. I've always been of the mind, this is a money problem. This is not a scarcity problem. If you want more diverse talent, create pipeline programs, hire them, and pay them whatever they want, and move on. Pay them, and then they need help getting there. Well, they're not as okay, great. So then pay executive coaches to walk with them every step of their career.
Exactly.
Hey, solve the gap. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing. So what would you say to the person who's like, I'm considering the mastermind, considering working with Speak Your Way to Cash Live, but I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if it'll work for me. They're apprehensive. What would you say to that person?
So first and foremost, I think I've invited like 1 million people to Speak Your Way to Cash Live, the event, because I'm like, you need to come over here. Okay. So first and foremost, one is to tap in and to lean in. If you think that you can't do the mastermind, that is going to show up in your business first and foremost. It will. And so I would say about this mastermind, and I tell Ashley all the time, I found my tribe. I found my tribe of experts. So for all of the experts out there, because it can be a little daunting in the social media world, right? Yeah. And you're looking at it and you're like, well, wait a minute, I have something more to offer. I have this thing to offer. And this is truly a mastermind of people who want to see you win, not out of envy or jealousy. And it's not a facade. They truly want to see you win. So you have a community. I look at the tools and the modules as a bonus. The community is the core of it, right? And the access. And this is, I won't say probably, I know this is the most prepared I've ever felt in my entrepreneurial journey. As far as pitching and doing the things, I don't feel like I have this guessing anymore. I feel prepared, and that actually makes me feel more confident when I feel prepared. So if you are saying, I don't have all these things in order, because I know how we got to have all our ducks in a row, and this list has to be right, and the stars and the moon has to align, it will never happen. Okay, so come on to the mastermind and get prepared, get equipped. You are already an expert. You are already great in your field. Now get equipped, have the mindset in a community of like-minded women who will support you all the way through, like genuinely support you. So that's what I would say.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. So good. I appreciate that a lot. I really love having you in our community, and I'm so proud of you. I mean, honestly, I just want to say, like, publicly, I'm so proud of you, because the forces coming against your industry and the way that you didn't shrink, you shined, like, that is huge. It takes so much grit and resilience. So kudos to you. And now you're showing so many other DEI experts and leaders in this space that our industry is not gone. They are not going to legislate us out, and we are still going to transform these workplaces. And I love that. And get paid.
And get paid to do it. Okay. Yes. I love that. Thank you for that.
Get ready to cash leads find you. How can they work with you, reach out to you, follow you on LinkedIn?
Yes. So I am on LinkedIn as Shayla Atkins. You can go to my website. My hub is www.shaylaatkins.com. You can get to all things that I do from that website, ShaylaAtkins.com. You can get to my consulting, my keynote speaking, and my executive coaching for women of color from ShaylaAtkins.com. And follow me on LinkedIn. I would say that is my primary source. I'm on Facebook and Instagram too, but if you want the good stuff, go to LinkedIn.
Love it. Well, thank you for having us. We will definitely link to all of your resources below. And until next time, y'all, keep the energy high and the excuses low.